The wind howled a low, mournful song through the desolate peaks of the northern Urals, a sound as ancient and indifferent as the mountains themselves. It was February, deep winter, 1959. 9 experienced hikers, led by a seasoned mountaineer, had set out to conquer a challenging route through a wilderness known for its unforgiving beauty. Their names, their faces, their hopes, they are not important to this story. What matters is the quiet confidence they carried, the shared purpose that bound them, and the ordinary nature of their final days, leading up to an event that would baffle investigators and haunt the collective imagination for decades. This was not a group of amateurs. They were seasoned adventurers, students and graduates of a respected polytechnic institute. They knew the risks, they understood the cold, and they were equipped for the harsh realities of a winter expedition. Their journey began like countless others, filled with laughter, camaraderie, and the steady crunch of boots on snow. They had successfully navigated treacherous passes and endured biting winds. They kept detailed journals, documenting their progress, their moods, and the stunning, stark landscapes they traversed. Their photographs show smiling faces, snow-covered beards, and the vast, white expanse stretching endlessly around them. They were alive, vibrant, and in control, until they weren't. On February 1st, they established their final camp on the slopes of a mountain known by the indigenous Mansi people as Kholat Syakhl, Dead Mountain. The weather had worsened, as expected, but it was not yet a blizzard. They dug into the snow, anchored their sturdy tent, and prepared for another night in the heart of the silent, watchful mountains. They ate dinner, shared stories, and likely drifted off to sleep, confident in their shelter against the encroaching cold. And then, silence. A silence that stretched on, far longer than anticipated. Days turned into weeks, and the radio silence persisted. The group was overdue. Anxious families raised the alarm. Rescue teams were dispatched, their initial optimism quickly fading as the vastness of the frozen wilderness swallowed their efforts. Finally, on February 26th, a search plane spotted something on the snowy slope. It was the tent. What they found defied all logic. The tent was still partially standing, anchored in the snow, but it had been severely damaged. Not by an avalanche, not by wind, but by something internal. The fabric was slashed open, not neatly, but violently, from the inside out. It was as if someone had frantically clawed or cut their way through the canvas in a desperate escape. Inside, the scene was even more unsettling. Backpacks, axes, warm clothing, food, everything was left behind. It was a perfectly preserved campsite, frozen in time, save for the catastrophic damage to its walls. No signs of struggle, no tracks leading into the tent, only tracks leading away. Following the footprints, bare or sock-clad, leading downhill through the deep snow, the searchers made their first grim discovery. Almost a mile away, at the edge of a dense pine forest, beneath a large cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies. They were dressed only in their underwear, or thin layers of clothing, barefoot, frozen solid. Near them, the remnants of a small fire, long extinguished. The tent itself told the first, most chilling part of the story. They had cut their way out, from the inside, into the deadly, freezing night. Over the next few months, as the snow began to melt, the remaining bodies were found, scattered across the slope and deeper into a ravine. And with each discovery, the mystery only deepened. The autopsies revealed injuries that seemed to belong to a horror film, not a hiking accident. Some had minor frostbite, consistent with exposure. But others, the injuries were catastrophic. One had a fractured skull. 2 others had major chest trauma, with broken ribs, injuries consistent with a high-speed car crash or a powerful blow from a heavy object. Yet there were no external wounds corresponding to these internal fractures. No bruises, no lacerations, nothing to suggest a struggle or an attack. One young woman was found missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her jaw. Another had extensive soft tissue damage around her face. These later discoveries were made 4 months after the initial ones, in a ravine, complicating the assessment of post-mortem animal activity versus initial trauma. Perhaps the most bizarre detail, some of the clothing found on the later victims contained traces of radiation. Not enough to cause immediate harm, but certainly an anomaly in such a remote, untouched wilderness. There were no signs of a struggle in the snow, no indications of other people, no animal tracks other than their own. Just 9 individuals fleeing their shelter in various states of undress into a 25°C night. Investigators, seasoned and stoic, were left utterly bewildered. The official Soviet conclusion was vague, a compelling unknown force. They simply could not explain what had happened. Over the years, countless theories have been proposed, each more unsettling than the last. Was it an avalanche? Unlikely, given the tent's position and the lack of avalanche debris. The tent was still partially standing, and if an avalanche had struck, it would have buried them, not torn the tent from the inside out. Was it infrasound, a low-frequency sound capable of inducing panic and irrational behavior? A military experiment gone wrong, perhaps involving a secret weapon that caused the strange injuries and radiation? Or something far more ancient, a territorial creature, a spirit of the dead mountain itself? Whatever drove them from that tent, it was a terror so profound it outweighed the certainty of death by exposure. They chose the agony of freezing to death over remaining inside what should have been their sanctuary. This was not a slow, creeping fear. This was an instantaneous, overwhelming dread that seized them, forcing a desperate, panicked flight into the deadly night. Decades have passed since that winter night. The files have been reviewed, reopened, and reclosed. The families of the hikers have grown old, carrying the weight of unanswered questions. The mountain stands silent, indifferent, holding its secrets close. And the image remains, a tent, ripped open from the inside, a silent testament to a terror that had no name. What force, human or otherwise, could drive experienced mountaineers to such a frantic, fatal escape? We may never know, and the mountains keep their secrets.